Hello and welcome. Here we are again, the famous or infamous Marianne and Corinna duo at 10 a.m. Tuesday morning. What are we going to talk about today? We had a really interesting conversation yesterday where we sort of checked in on what are we doing, what's going on for us right now. And what we found is that both of us are sort of exploring, who am I? And not just who am I so I can put a definition on who I am, but more from the perspective of who am I with all my different aspects, with all the good aspects that we label good, with all the bad aspects that we label bad. What if everything is accessible to us? And I have saying this right now, it transports me back into about the mid 90s when I had a realization that technically I could be anything between the best possible human being and the worst possible human being, or between an angel and a devil. I had that understanding back then, and it was more that I was just one slice of that whole spectrum, versus today, for me, every of those energies is just a choice. And I choose more towards that direction or those kinds of energies and less towards the others. But that doesn't mean I couldn't be it. And
Mm.
that is part of my exploration. What is part of your exploration, Marianne?
Oh, Corinna, this is truly interesting because it brings me also back now by listening to you. Is we touched it yesterday, I believe, about things happening now, as in remembering things and information that is coming by that leaps me back also
Mm-hmm.
around about 20 years ago. And with that question, who am I? Sitting with all what is happening was for me something like, whoa. But back then, 20 years back, I was already so much of me, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what I was doing. I just
Mm-hmm.
did it because mm, it was an urging I had back then, my own healing practice, and it was running and it was running well. And in that time, I couldn't define my practice. That was something interesting. I couldn't define my practice, as I can remember that clients were calling me to make an appointment, and then they asked me, yeah, what are the possibilities? What do I choose? What are the treatments? And blah 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 blah. And I said, yeah, it's a healing practice. You can take an appointment, and from there we go. So it confuses a lot in the beginning, as people
Mm-hmm.
want to make an appointment for, as you go to the dentist, then you go for this problem, or you go to the hairdresser and you want curls or whatever it is, or the doctor, it is for something specific. You
Yeah.
go, you choose about what possibilities are. And with me, it was like, this is who I am, and everything is possible. And I'm not going to put it in one named treatment or whatever. So, yes, I went with every client different. And yes, there were specialties, quote unquote, that I could bring. But I loved, I loved it that I didn't define practice or the treatments.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, I judged it on the other side because it was not defined and it's required to be defined. So people have reference points. So it was an interesting thing, but looking back to that time is the more I was looking from a cognitively understanding of who I am, the more I felt myself trapped into going and look up
Yeah.
for a definition. Where definition, yeah, what is definition? What is definition? Is it a definition of who I am by me, made by me, cannot match in any way of, with the definition you have of me? And
Yeah.
which definition is the right one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do we do with looking up for definitions?
And how much do we feel an incredible need to be able to define something? Uh, I mean, I remember over the last maybe 10 years, every once in a while, looking at my coffee table and saying, so, what are you? What are you really? And there were so many different possibilities that coffee table is just describing the function that I'm giving this thing right now in this moment.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what if we are more open to not defining, and that allows us to have a broader understanding? Because if and I remember about 4 years ago, I was going through something, and after a while, I was thinking, whoa, could not have insulted me more if you would have told me that I'm a victim. And right now, what I'm doing is victim, and I'm doing it damn well. Where did I get the practice? And that was such a shock for me that at that moment, I decided, okay, I'm done with definitions. What if I don't define myself at all anymore? Because obviously, I'm not defining myself correctly, in a sense, not that right or wrong, but correctly in the sense that everything is included.
Yeah, yes.
Because victim
Listening to
was
you,
not on my list of definitions, self definitions.
it wasn't on your list. Nevertheless, there was a lot of victimness
Yeah,
energy in your world. Exactly. Because listening to you brings me to that, those all different perspectives and all different layers and all
mhm,
different vibrations and frequencies and point of views.
yep,
Finally, point of views. So, and it is interesting because I recognize a similar thing with victim, being the victim, victimness. It was like, no way, my world, it doesn't exist because I always was a woman. Whatever happened, how bad it was, how sad it was, always finding the bright side. You know that song, eh? Always look on the bright side of love, of love. Wow, interesting. Life. So love and life, it's yeah, all those even in spirituality, I could notice in my body when it was all about that bright side, whether it
Mhm.
was in the name of love or from the love aspect or whatever, it doesn't matter. It is going and to define everything in a certain aspect that you defined again as the right one.
Mhm.
And that brings me now to what I spoke to yesterday also during the conversation was that refined fighting and those refined judgments that
Mhm.
we are not really willing to be present with when we go by
Yeah.
definition on definition on definition. And when we truly want to discover and play with the who am I? Is that including going and looking and playing in every aspect there is possible?
Yeah.
That's so we can't play in an aspect that is not included in my definition. So by definition again, I exclude.
And in the exclusion, we're hiding.
And in the exclusion, as I noticed for myself, I can even acknowledge which is whatever it is, but I
Yeah.
can't acknowledge it as becoming so clear. I was hooked up on in the last years also by that question: who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And going and searching and looking as the seeker. You go and go and go and go
Mhm.
and go. And then there is a point as, oh, it's like I'm coming home. Finally, I found myself. Finally, I know who I am. Finally, this and this and this. But yeah, that ongoing and ongoing brought me enough again in, but who am I? But who
Yeah.
am I? I already thought, but who am I? And there, that hiding and that hidden fight with all those refined energies in it was, yeah, turned everything around again as what if I'm stopping? What if I would choose to stop to go and find, as in a definition, to find as in a definition who I am
Mhm.
and play and play and play and enjoy and enjoy and enjoy in every aspect I discover, I receive, I be, and the playfulness with that. And
And
always me.
also the lack of judgment. Because
Yeah,
how invested are we in being a good person, being a person that fits that label of good?
yeah,
And, we talk a lot about, yeah, we're infinite beings. Now, what does infinite being actually mean? And I think on one level, there is no way to define infinite being, because how do you define, meaning make it finite, something that is infinite?
yeah.
And on the other hand, wouldn't it make a lot of sense that an infinite being includes everything, not just the positive half, but everything? And can we stay out of judgment long enough to actually allow that? That I can be a badass, that I can be an asshole, that I can be a thief. And a thief may not be that I go into a store and steal something, But how many different ways are there to steal something, to be a thief? Am I
Yeah.
willing to contemplate that and not go, oh, no, no, I could be a thief. That is not possible.
You know what catches me the most when you were speaking was that how long will you stay out of judgment, also out of definition, so you can explore? Because is that what we do when we are looking for a definition? Do we stop infinity as we
Mhm.
make? And we are looking for from that infinite aspect, but truly we don't know what it is. But we will look. And we try to look and go from that infinite aspect. And then we are going to look for the definition. But with the definition, when we define whatever we want to define, but the moment we define it, we stop the infinity and we
Mhm.
make it finite. Yes. And how many times per day, perhaps, we stop the infinity, and we can choose again and again and again to open it up again and close it down and open it up. And because isn't that the journey of discovering and exploring?
Yeah.
Because when you didn't explore and wasn't present with that victimness, you couldn't acknowledge that, oh my, wait a minute, that was something I excluded from my world because it was not in my world. And here I am.
Mhm.
Apparently, I am this energy also.
Yeah.
So there you open up again something different to explore. So that movement we make in closing and opening, closing and an opening, is that the journey of exploration?
And it's not just, I think, the opening and closing, but the willingness to move from the labeled good part
Yeah,
to the labeled bad part.
yeah,
It's also along the spectrum, that movement. Because, from my perspective, does the universe judge? Does the universe say, oh, you're a black hole, you're eating everything, you're bad? I don't think so. I can't imagine that the universe is judging. You're a supernova, you're creating, you know, is that good?
and even
So,
this, Corinna, exactly, it's the way I see it also, because you mentioned there the black hole, but what is the definition of that black hole? As what does the universe know about the black hole? So it doesn't require to judge
yeah,
also
yeah.
that.
And does the earth judge? Do we bring it closer to home, quote unquote, by bringing it
Exactly.
out of the universe to the earth? I don't think the earth judges that a lion or a cat who kills is bad, and the animal like the antelope or the mouse is good because they get killed.
Yeah,
Neither
exactly.
one. It just is.
And isn't it so also, Corinna, that with the positive and the negative, that we require it? As you see for a battery, for example, there is
Mm-hmm.
that negative and that positive pole, but take out one of them and it doesn't work.
Defies the purpose.
So we are energy.
Yeah.
And from that aspect, is it required those both aspects
A magnet wouldn't
equally?
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But and it is It is balancing. It's not, because isn't it also that what we define as positive, that we put that higher than what we define as negative, that put we low. So it's out of balance completely. And
Mhm.
how lower it is because we are walking straight away. We have the eyesight, and most people, what's underneath it, most people don't see it. It is something
Yeah.
that artists, for example, of photographers, I experienced it during my life, that they have another way of looking at things also, but they are willing to look where most people don't look, so they can see a lot more. And is that what a seeker and journey is also?
Yeah.
Willing to have a look there where you normally and most people don't look. And is that the weirdness we have? We
On
be.
the on the other hand, it's my experience that a lot of people actually don't look this way, but they look down. They walk looking down, and they don't see anything that is beyond a little bit wider than they are, you know, and because they look down, they don't have in that level, they don't see that. So, uh, and other people may be only looking this way, but how much is the way we choose to look, where we choose to look, creating the limitation of what we are able to perceive?
Exactly. I love this example, because you notice people in a complete different way with the looking downwards, as I have a lot more experience with people just looking. We call it, you can't look wider than there where your nose is. It's
The tip of
literally, I'm
the
seeing
nose, yeah.
here and here. It's not even far, wide, deep. It's whatever. But it is interesting, because could that also refer to where we were in the moment of experiencing that? What would I say? Definitely, definitely, no. Skip the word. It doesn't matter. Definitely, we are going out of definition. But when you look back and mention that your experience is people looking down, is that coming from a period of time in your life where you looked quite down on yourself? So that matched with what the vibration you were going through. Perhaps because I looked it in another way up, I could perceive more there, and I wanted to go deeper, but the people didn't go deeper with me. So I, I so
Practice
you know
corruption.
it, and it is different, because when isn't that we become often with the frequencies they are around us, we become
Yeah.
them also. But what was first?
The
Are
chicken or the egg?
we? And that is it. It is that, because
Yeah.
in all those layers, yeah, it can be that it was first by yourself and then adapting to the environment, or it was first environment and we adapted us. And it's not possible to know in which second or minute which one is first.
And I'll throw in another one. Are we imitating somebody?
Also,
Because I
yes.
just became aware that I uh, copied my mother's way of looking down and I don't know where this is coming from right now, but it's as if she was making sure she would not stumble and trip over something.
It's interesting that you are saying it, because when you mentioned your mother and what she was choosing for whatever reason, I see now my mother, she blinded herself by just looking here, as when I don't look further or wider or deeper, then it doesn't exist and I don't have to deal with it.
That's another
Wow.
one, yeah.
Yeah. And it is imitating. Is it because our bodies are spectacular in
Mm-hmm.
adapting energies, in adapting environments?
Yeah.
If we allowed ourselves, what's the difference with people who are travel all over the world and they are sensing home wherever they are? Is it
Mm-hmm.
because the way they go with it, the definitions they have over themselves, over traveling, over the world, over the earth, towards the definitions ones have? One who says, let me stay home. I'm not a traveler. I just sense me well in my house, in my garden, in, all. And when one is A and the other is Z, then we have all those other aspects in
Yeah.
between. So
Yeah.
how is it even possible? How is it even possible to define something? And we are doing so our best, so much our best to define things. So
Mm-hmm.
what an illusion. What an illusion that we can define things.
That we can define things, that we are able, and basically how much in the definition are we stunting things, that they cannot be what they truly are.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter if it's another person, if it's an animal, if it's a plant, if it's whatever.
yeah, yeah. And it is also from definition that there is that need to defend, need
Mm-hmm.
to being right
Yep.
also. So, yes, definition, all the aspects. Where do they
Oh,
match?
yep.
They
And are
don't
we
match.
willing to let go of truly let go of definition? And I get that there is a certain level of convenience with defining something. It allows people to have a conversation because we're assuming, and there's already the first pitfall, that you mean exactly the same
Yeah,
when you say a word that I mean with using that word.
yeah,
And that may not be the case. So, it brings it back to some extent that yes, it may take longer to have a conversation by being willing to ask a question and clarifying, are you actually meaning exactly the same as I, instead of assuming? And then we have all that miscommunication based on all the assumptions that are going on.
a lot of miscommunication, and even more when you go with other languages.
Yeah, then you add
Even
another
then,
element to it. Yeah.
yeah, and then culture comes in, and the way people go. Because yeah, I live with someone from a complete other culture and in another land. So this, yeah, this thing appeared a lot in the conversations as from who I am from birth and grow up with, not as being the definition, but with all this information I have and the habits and yeah, the
Yeah.
automatic pilots. But the other one has it also. And
Yeah.
then it looks like two different two different conversations in one. And when I got that clear, often I ask now, what do you hear when I say this? Or do you mean this? Because most
Mhm.
likely I am the one who asks the questions. But it is a definition is complicating our life in so many ways that we even discovered it in how many ways a definition is limiting ourselves,
Yeah.
is difficulting ourselves. Yeah. So the who am I? Does that open for me? It is. The more I play for myself with all the aspects of wanting to discovering much
Mhm.
more, the more ease I also have with the other, as it's who is he or she also from all those aspects, and from which aspect is the person speaking, from which aspect am I listening, where do they match, where do go they against each other. There is so much in it.
And even the simplest situation is, if I am willing to explore myself, stopping the self judgment that this is a good aspect, this is a bad aspect, how much does that then translate into
Yeah,
being willing and able to see the other person with all their aspects
yeah,
without judging, oh, this is a good aspect, this is a bad aspect?
yeah. And it starts with yourself. It
Yeah,
starts with yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Let's
mean,
explore more.
sadly enough, it's true for anything and everything. It
Exactly.
starts with me.
Yes, yes, yes. And how lucky am I that I can explore a lot with you together as it opens up. It opens
Yeah,
up because when we have our conversations, we literally explore. It's
yeah.
not from the point of view, oh, she asked me an opinion, or I have to define this or this, or I, on the other
Mhm.
side, require that from the other. It is literally, we start, what's up, what is going on, and we go.
And in a way, I want to bring that in because I think it's so important. We go about it like with the curiosity that children have.
Mhm.
What is there? What can I discover? What is going on? Let me look around the corner. All those things. And there is such a beauty in that way of being in the world, in that way of living, that as adults, how much have we cut all of that off?
Oh, are you allowed to play as an adult?
No, you aren't.
Okay.
We're supposed to be serious.
Now I can relax.
And it's
Let's
okay.
play
There's
Thursday.
of humor.
Oh, yes. I wipe it off.
Yeah,
I'm serious again.
yeah.
Yes. Let's play having fun Thursday. Who's coming? Who's
Who is
coming?
coming? Who is gonna willing to explore who they are and let go of self-definition?
And let
Let
us literally explore, because it's not from the point of view that there is a wrongness, there is not a rightness. It is really exploring and discovering in which way we cut in our own fingers.
And discovering the fullness of us,
Yes.
not just the partiality
Yes.
and the
Yes.
slice out of the whole.
As in what I started to say, discovering from, wow, I was so much more of me, mm, because I wouldn't define myself. I
Yep,
allowed myself to go with all those aspects. So,
yep,
yeah,
yep.
great, great.
So let's see, Thursday, 11 o'clock. I'll put the reminder on Facebook and hope to see some of you there. Take
Yeah.
care. Bye
And if
bye.
not, next week, same time. Bye
Same time
bye.
next